Remember that time when we thought we had time? I just knew that I was safe as long as you were there. It's kind of like that time when you woke up in the middle of the night to see that our house was on fire. You frantically woke us with your screams and told us to get out. We tried to escape by running down the stairs, but the thick black smoke sent us back to you each time. I didn't know that time could feel like it was moving slowly and yet slipping away quickly all at once. Even when you ushered us into your room and closed the door, I knew. I knew that it didn't matter that smoke was rapidly seeping underneath the closed door as fire traveled up the stairs with greater force, headed straight for us, because I knew. So I watched with anticipation as you meticulously tied the sheets together and fastened them securely to the leg of your bed. When the sheets gave way and you fell 2 stories down, landing underneath our window, I screamed out your name. I yelled, "Mommy," and you looked at me. Even then, I knew that in the midst of your initial confusion that you were looking up at your young children to be sure they were still okay as they stand at the open window, now trapped among flames that had honed in on their exact location. At that very moment, you stood up and said, "You're going to have to jump." I looked behind me at the closed door and saw that the smoke was coming in more furiously than it had in the last 1/10 of a second it took you to fall from the window, and I was frightened. I told her to go first, somehow believing the fire would not harm me and would graciously leave a pathway for me to escape if needed. So she jumped. As she lay underneath the same window from which you had just fallen, she could not move. She pleaded for help, but you stood right where you were. I could not jump until she moved, so you used your words to help roll her safely out of the way. I know now that you were frozen. You were positioned perfectly between your twin girls and could neither help the one who had fallen to the ground nor the one who was still in danger up above. You looked up at me again, but I just sat there. I casually sat there on the windowsill with my legs dangling 2 stories high as I contemplated what I should do. Then, as the smoke filled the room where the air once was, we heard sirens. And just like that, time stopped. The last time time stopped was when I noticed that things between us were changing, and with it, my time changed too. I was beginning a new phase in life, and you wanted to know if I was happy, and you wanted to share your insights as the years went by. At first I listened and asked for more, but then I noticed a glitch. Sometimes your wisdom didn't sound like you. Sometimes you didn't sound like you. I selfishly wondered why my time was being disrupted in this way. I did not understand. And for some reason, I also did not understand when the doctor said you were deteriorating. I should have known when our conversation started to become strained and when our phone calls became shorter and shorter with abrupt goodbyes that lagged with thoughts that were inadequately expressed. Time was not cooperating, and then I knew. I knew that time would be different from now on, that time was not permanent anymore. So, during that last phone call, when something told me I should talk to you before going on the long road trip with my husband and kids, I somehow knew that time had almost run out and that my sense of security was slowly being pulled away like a bandage that had lost its adhesive. The agony was almost unbearable, but neither of us understood what was really happening. And like so many phone calls before, we spoke briefly at first, me always with a lump in my throat, longing over what we once had and wishing I could find you again. You always sounding concerned, trying your best to hold on to me, and always asking if I was happy. When the conversation changed to disagreement, I felt it, and it was stronger now. That is, time itself. It was moving faster than me, and I could not keep up. It was quicker than I imagined it would be, but this time I concealed the frustration and annoyance in my voice. I had been working on this because I owed you that much at least. Nonetheless, I said it one last time. Goodbye. 3 days after returning from the road trip, I had not called you yet. I meant to. But now I was driving to the hospital to be with you. You had been found unresponsive. You were with me as I drove. You sat next to me, rested your hand on me, and let me know that I was not alone. You prepared me in the car and told me to just take it all one step at a time. I listened to you this time. I did exactly as you instructed. You looked at me once more to be sure I was okay, like you always did, and then you stayed with me until I walked in. I watched them working frantically to revive you. The bandage was almost completely off now, and I knew that time was stopping again. I felt it as it slipped from my grasp. Just then, the doctor approached my chair, sat down next to me, leaned in, and gently pulled away all of the time I had left.